Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.
It is Wednesday, yes that's right, which can only mean one thing. It's time for Mullinger's Weekly Ramble. How's your hump day going? I hope it's going well. Hello to our new listeners. Some of you may be with us this morning because you heard, well, did I say this morning? Could be this afternoon. Could be any time. It's morning right now for me. You could be here because you saw me on the social yesterday talking about this very podcast. I'm still in Toronto now. I'm sitting here right now at the beautiful Sutton Place Hotel on King Street West here in the entertainment district of Toronto. Absolutely beautiful hotel. Only recently, I believe, became a Sutton Place hotel. It is a hotel that opened during COVID. And we all know how that must have been. And it recently became a Sutton Place. So anyone who knows me knows I'm a huge fan of the Sutton Place Hotel in Halifax. And not just a fan of the hotel, which is a very, very beautiful hotel, but all of the people there who are just amazing. Eli, Danon, Olivia, Ray. There's so many wonderful, wonderful people there that literally going to the Sutton Place in Halifax feels like going home. So this is my first time at the Sutton Place in Toronto, having a wonderful time. I'm here for a few television appearances. The social yesterday, which I always love doing. There's really nothing quite like it. I just love the thrill and the buzz of live television. And people always say, "Oh, are the ladies as nice as they appear on the show?" I mean, they really are, and then some. It's like I don't know. People always want to hear the good stuff, but it really is like a family backstage there, and just the slick tightness. It's just the most meticulous operation they've got going. Oh, I suppose I should be turning off computer notifications from my laptop. So sorry about that ding you just heard. Hey, it's a ramble. The computer's allowed to ramble too, and there's a horn going off outside because hey, we're in Toronto. Yeah, it's a very well-oiled machine. They do this daily show every single day. A lot of improvisation, obviously, because you get the subjects about half an hour before you go on air. And then you all sit there and talk it out. And anyone that's watched the show will know it just comes across. It's so beautifully done. I love going on there. All of the hosts, all of the backstage crew, everyone involved, they're just so welcoming. The first time I did it, obviously very nerve-wracking. You are literally going on live TV to debate and discuss topics with extremely talented people who you've watched on television millions of times. So it was probably terrifying first time I did it. Yesterday was my third time on. Now it was a lot more, I felt a lot more comfortable doing it. We talked about lots of things, including, of course, the Rebel Wilson and Sascha Baron Cohen. I don't know if I should call it a beef because it seems to be a bit more serious than that, given she's obviously got quite serious allegations about his behavior on set, namely wanting to put a finger up a bottom. Something that we frequently came back to on the show. There was a story that I really wanted to tell on the show yesterday that I held back from doing because I felt nervous about doing it. I wanted to make the point that, I've got a lot of admiration for Rebel Wilson for speaking up about an experience that she had with a awful, to her mind, and again, I'm not taking sides, but a deplorable experience with someone in the workplace, and she spoke up about it, and you've got to respect that. I had a encounter with a very well-known British comedian who, again, I was going to tell the story on air and decided against it, and I won't name him on this podcast. However, you're my friends, you're my family. We're all in this Mullinger's Weekly Ramble tight unit together. So if you message me, I'll happily tell you his name. A British comedian is very well known for not believing that anyone's allowed to take offense. He frequently argues that, I can say what I like because no one's allowed to take offense. And a number of years ago, I made a joke about this particular person in an article for a British comedy website. And it was a throwaway joke. The comedian in question took such offense at it that they insisted that I was not to be allowed onto the set of a photo shoot that I had organized for the GQ comedy issue. This particular comedian, they had someone on their team. They didn't do this. They had someone else do it for them. Phoned up the editor of the GQ and told him that I was not to be allowed on the set of my own shoot. So my editor did, to his credit, came to me and said, "Look, I don't mind telling him where to stick it." And I said, no, you know what? Fair enough. If, I won't be there. I'm always thinking of the greater good. This person was a good get for the comedy issue. I'm not going to be a baby about this. But I did find it slightly interesting that this person who seems to believe that no one's allowed to take offense, took offense at a joke. And then, if you want to be a comedian, why not get in the same room as me and roast me, tear strips off me? Don't hide behind someone else and say you don't want me on the set of a shoot that I've organised. Anyway, a few weeks after this, I was writing my editor's letter for that particular issue of the magazine, the comedy issue, and I wrote a editorial in which I recounted this story, having had time to kind of really think about it. And I said at the end of the piece, I said, there's a lot of question marks in comedy, and this was over a decade ago, and this debate rages on, but there's a lot of debates in comedy about, what's acceptable, what are you allowed to joke about, and what's off limits, and what isn't off limits. And my final payoff was, so there you have it. It turns out the only thing that is off limits in comedy is millionaire white male comedians. That's the only thing that Cohen apparently you're not allowed to joke about is millionaire white male comedians. And I was encouraged to not print this particular story and this person's name. And as you can tell, I mean, the fact that I'm still too scared to even say the person's name now kind of says it all. Although any one of you message me and ask me, I will happily tell you, and I'm sure you've already guessed exactly who it is. So I do have to say, even though I don't believe in, necessarily, shouting allegations without foundation, blah, 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 Rebel Wilson has said that she worked with Sascha Baron Cohen and he was an arsehole. That's her opinion. Surely she's allowed to have her opinion. And she's made it. And he has obviously reacted very badly and is now attempting to sue her and have the book stopped, which has, of course, created a vast amount of publicity, which has led many trolls online to say, oh, she did this just for publicity. And it's like, well, actually, he's the one who's kind of turned this into a front page news story. So anyway, because I have worked with monstrous people, not to say Sascha Baron Cohen is, but because I've worked with monstrous people and have been silenced myself in the past, I have to say, I have respect for people who are willing to put their neck out. So anyway, there's a little exclusive of something that we discussed on the social yesterday. I was also on another TV show this week on Monday that was filmed for next week. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about it yet, but I'll be talking about it on next week's show. It was lots of fun. It's my first time on that particular show. I was very lucky, actually, on that show to meet a young lady by the name of Arushi. And Arushi is 14 years old, and she's the founder of MonitorMyPlanet.com. She's basically a scientist, an absolute genius. She was the top award winner for the Canada-wide Science Fair in both 2003 and 2022. She came second in the European Union contest for young scientists in 2023. She was on the show that I was appearing on Monday to discuss the solar eclipse, which is, of course, happening the week after next. This incredible once-in-a-lifetime thing, or for some of us, twice in a lifetime. But the solar eclipse it's a huge, huge thing. And one of the best places in the world to watch the solar eclipse is in Florenceville, Bristol, New Brunswick, which led the brilliant people at the district of Carlton North to organise for no one other than the legend himself, the Canadian icon, Colonel Chris Hadfield. astronaut, author, musician, speaker, to come to Florenceville, Bristol in 2 weeks on the day of the solar eclipse to speak. And I have the immense and ridiculous honour of opening for him and indeed introducing him that night. So Florenceville, Bristol. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about Niagara Falls being a great place to watch it. Absolutely, it is. But if you are in Atlantic Canada, Colonel Chris Hadfield will be speaking in Florenceville, Bristol with myself. Total eclipse of the sun in 2 weeks. We'll be watching. Thousands of us will be there with our naked eye, with the eclipse glasses on, watching the solar eclipse. But anyway, my point about this amazing young scientist, Arushi, is that she taught me more. And I've been obviously doing my research about the solar eclipse. I've been, I'm speaking at arguably one of the biggest and most important solar eclipse events in Atlantic Canada in 2 weeks. And I have been doing my research, but I learned more speaking to Arushi about the solar eclipse. And she's an expert. I mean, a few years ago, I guess it would be like 8 years ago when it was the partial eclipse, Arushi created this incredible solar eclipse kit, which she still had, which she brought to display on this show. You should follow her on her Twitter account is at OneRobot, WON Robot. Arushi. Watch her anyway. I'll be talking about the show next week, so that's all good. So what else have we going on? P. Diddy's on the run. Maybe he's been captured by the time you're listening to this. I don't know. P. Diddler. P. Diddy's turned out to be a diddler. Unfortunate. Every new diddler is an unfortunate thing. Obviously, allegations, or what's the word? Allegedly. All of his homes were raided and all of his employees were aggressively handcuffed by the looks of it. It doesn't seem quite fair that his maids and servants are all bundled into handcuffs when clearly someone gave Diddler the tip-off since he got into his private plane and flew out of the country moments before. Anyway, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I'm not Alex Jones, and this is not a conspiracy podcast, obviously. So that happened yesterday, Tuesday morning. The Baltimore Bridge in the state of Maryland collapsed after a container ship collided with it. I'm sure you've all seen the pictures by now. What on earth? How on earth? A genuine of tragedy beyond when you're looking at all the terrible things happening in the news, and just already the wars and the torture, and then someone has a I don't know, a container ship with the containers that piled that high. It wasn't like it was a close fit. It was the most ludicrously. It looks like something out of someone would attempt out of a Fast and Furious movie. Fast and Furious, the container ship version. Some investigating needs to be done. Where's McNulty and Bunk when you need them? There you go. There's a up-to-date cultural reference. The Wire, for anyone listening. I'm talking about The Wire. That's all I know about Baltimore. It has it had a bridge and The Wire. What have I been up to? So I've been in Toronto this week. Lots of meetings, the TV shows that I mentioned, lots of exciting things. Projects that I'm working on in development. Last week, my wife was in Montreal, not Montreal, what's that other place? She was in Halifax for the opening of the Simon store at the Halifax Shopping Centre. She was the MC. It was an amazing event. Lots of the Simons family were there. Biggest kind of luxury fashion retailer to open in Atlantic Canada ever. So lovely. It's those of you that read the Maritime Edit magazine, you'll know that it's the cover story of the new issue, and my wife Pamela was the MC for the ribbon cutting. And while she was there, me and our sons had time to do some fun things. I went to Broken Pieces with them, which is a rage room. I'm sure lots of you probably know what a rage room is. There is now a rage room that has opened in St. John, New Brunswick. I believe there are rage rooms all over Canada, or indeed all over the world. It's a Japanese concept that started in Japan in 2008, and essentially it is a place that people can go to take out their frustrations by destroying objects. And by objects, I mean anything from, a car windshield, a computer, laptop, monitor, glassware, printers, you name it. And you get to go in and take all of your frustration out. And as kind of, I don't know, mad as this sounds, it is been proven globally to be an incredible help to people struggling with rage issues, obviously, with the mental health crisis in St. John and indeed all of New Brunswick at a literally breaking point, and waiting lists for people to see professionals just months, years, and knowing, as anyone that knows anyone that has been through mental health struggles or indeed lost people will know, a waiting list is not a good thing for someone to be on. So Julie, who opened Broken Pieces, an absolutely amazing lady, entrepreneur. She has had mental health concerns over the years due to trauma causing PTSD, anxiety, and depression. And she has opened this incredible rage room, Broken Pieces, along with her husband, Ken, son, Colby, and daughter, Maya. And they've opened St. John's first rage room. And it's absolutely phenomenal fun. 500 square feet of office space. There's an area with mental health information. There is also a wall where we can go and pay tribute to people we've lost due to mental health. And I did so, a memory wall where you can go and put names of people that you've lost and say a prayer. And there's a candle burning there. Anyway, my sons and I went and had truly the most phenomenally enjoyable time, letting out our frustrations, just smashing the shit out of things with mallets and hammers and you name it. It was so much fun. It was a really, really great bonding experience, and I can't recommend it enough. Broken Pieces Rage Room. It's one in St. John. There are rage rooms all over. But the website is brokenpiecesrageroom.ca. It is on Rossay Avenue. Julie and her family and team are truly great people, and I guarantee you an awesome time. Look up your local rage room. It's truly incredible value for money and a really, really great night out. I also had the pleasure last week of seeing a very talented local musician who is from, I believe, the Greater St. John area, a musician, a vocalist, a writer, who now lives in Halifax. And I believe he is studying music at university in Halifax. He was back in the KV over the weekend doing shows at Yipsida, Long Bay, Foghorn, and at the RNS Chapel. I had the pleasure of seeing him inside that beautiful chapel last Wednesday. And wow, what a voice. What a guitarist. It was like watching a young Ed Sheeran. So if you have a chance to see Peter Philman, or indeed follow him on social, shout out to Mackenzie Orthodontics, also for sponsoring this series of chapel concerts. Anyone that knows me knows that I love chapels, I love churches, I love the beauty, the architecture, the stained glass windows, so many memories of childhood in churches, and Mackenzie Orthodontics were very kind enough to sponsor a series of concerts in this gorgeous chapel. So I guess that's what I've been up to. You've sent questions in, which is very kind. Someone sent me a link to one of my favorite Twitter pages. And I'm sorry to quote social media on a podcast. One of my pet hates on the news is, how, we're all complaining that we're losing news. We're losing our news on TV. where everything's being dumbed down. One of my biggest hates is how when you turn on the news and half of it is devoted to showing TikTok videos, and then suddenly then we wonder why these big conglomerates, these media conglomerates, shut down our local news shows. And it's like, because we've devoted half of it to, like, TikTok's the thing we're all trying to get everyone off. We're trying to get everyone off of TikTok. If half of the news is devoted to, here's a funny video of a cat doing a funny thing on TikTok, that's not the news, right? That's everyone's looking at that all the time. Let's keep the news to the news. Anyway, so one of my favorite Twitter. Anyway, so I'm aware of how hypocritical I am now quoting Twitter, and yeah, I know it's X and it's where Twitter used to be, but I'm calling it Twitter because I don't work for Elon Musk. All right, although in many ways I guess we all do. But one of my favorite Twitter pages is No Context Brit, which is just full of so many funny things. And someone sent me this because it was describe the UK in 3 words. And some of the responses are just hilarious. Always shitty weather is top. Fish and chips, that's a fair one. That's UK in 3 words. Fish and chips. Beans on toast, spot on. Empire of immigrants, which is a good one, provided the person meant that in a positive way, because it is an empire of immigrants and it's a wonderful thing. Although generally when you hear a British person say the word immigrant, it isn't done in a positive way. When you hear a Canadian say immigrant, it's always done in a positive, celebratory way of the wonderful diversity and the incredible, diversity that we have here in Canada, and the fact that we have so many different cultures to celebrate and embrace. Generally, when the word immigrant is used in the UK, it can be disparagingly. However, maybe this person meant it positively. Empire of immigrants. Never stops raining was another one. Sexy bloody accents. Presumably an Australian. Sexy bloody accents. Describe the UK in 3 words. Could be worse. And I don't know, it got me thinking. I thought, how would you describe Canada in 3 words? Anyone listening, send me in your ideas, thoughts. How would I describe Canada in 3 words? Well, better than England. There's mine. Better than England. If I had to describe Canada in 3 words, better than England. I was on the Guardian website, which is my newspaper of choice in the UK, looking at all of the horrible, depressing news, collapsed bridges, war, torture. And I came across one positive story, which was very nice, which was a Bournemouth man set a Guinness World. Bournemouth is a seaside town where my dad grew up. If you've read my book, you will know I've got a lot of fondness for Bournemouth. So my grandmother lived for many years. It was where I would go and visit her every time I went home, right up until her passing 2 years ago, age 99. So Bournemouth is my happy place. I've also told stories many times about how one of the things I loved so much about the Maritimes was how it reminded me of Bournemouth. Bournemouth headline was Bournemouth man sets Guinness World Record as longest serving lifeguard. A gentleman by the name of Chris Lewis has been rescuing local swimmers and tourists on Dorset Resort's beaches for 58 years. 58 years this geezer has been saving lives. And so when I say geezer, I don't mean, I know in Canada that means old person, gentleman. In England, geezer just means man. Like I say to my friends, all right, geezer, how you doing, geezer? Lots of words in England have similar meanings to ones here, but basically different connotations. A bit like I won't go into this because it's a family podcast, but the C word. C word in North America, very misogynistic, very frowned upon. In England, often a term of endearment. So, when I say geezer, I'm not saying Chris Lewis is old. I'm just saying he's a guy, he's a geezer, he's a lad, he's a gent, he's a nice one, geezer, lovely, jubbly, sweet as a nut, bish, bash, bosh, wee. So that's how we talk sometimes. But anyway, Chris Lewis, 58 years he's been saving lives. That was a nice one. But it gets very upsetting, doesn't it, when you're going through the news and just seeing all of the depressing things that are going on. I guess, and you just see it and it just makes you really upset. And then you go out and people upset you or they're just rude to you. And I guess one of the realizations I've had now in my mid to late 40s is, I guess, one of the most freeing and kind of accepting feelings in the world is when you are able and willing to accept that the world is populated by absolute turds. Like, we shouldn't be surprised. You know, half of America still wants Donald Trump to be president. Half of that's tens of millions of people would like a rapist criminal to run their country. And it's not just that they're reluctantly choosing him, like anyone who's voting for Biden, that they actually, most of the Trumpers actually want him. What an awful political system we have created. And again, I'm not tarring all politicians with this brush, but for the most part, it is fair to say that we globally, I mean, other than, dictatorships, different stories, but we've basically, in supposedly civilized countries, we've essentially created a system whereby only the worst person for the job would possibly want that job. Like, do you know anyone with any sense of semblance of humility and humbleness and goodness that would want to go into political office? I get that there are exceptions. I'm not tarring everyone with this brush. But for the most part, if you are a person who is walking around going, I want to be the king, I want to be in charge, I want to be the ruler of you all, I want to be the president, I must be the prime minister, I want to be in charge of all you scum. If you think like that, you are deranged. And yet that's what we have asked of our system. Our system is, because to my mind, anyone that wants to be a ruler over people and say, I'm in charge, I'm bigger and better than you, to me, that is not a good mindset to have. The best person for a job leading a country would be the person who wants to do it least. That should be the new system. They should put it out there and see who is willing to want to do the job of a president or a prime minister, and then work our way down and find the person that wants to do it least and give it to them, because their heart's going to be in the right place. They're going to do everything for the right reason. They won't be corrupted by power, and they won't be corrupted by money. Anyway. How did I get onto that? Sorry, that was a very wild Virginia Woolf-esque extreme of consciousness into my psyche. I didn't have I actually don't even know exactly what I just said, but again, this is Mullinger's Weekly Ramble, and I'm going to ramble. And sometimes, like I say, there's no chance for the stuff to be filtered in my head before it comes out. But what was I saying? Yes, just that it's a freeing feeling when you realise that half the world is populated by absolute turds. I don't know if I mentioned Alex Jones earlier. There's a new HBO documentary, but I believe it comes out this week, about Alex Jones, the far right wing. What's the phrase? It's not shock jock, is it? Shock jock is kind of how Howard Stern was described. What's the name for these far right wing, or these commentators that just go? Anyway, I mean, they're conspiracy theorists, but these hosts that would go on these shows and just spout anger and bile and rage and conspiracy theories and outright lies. And Alex Jones is the one that famously, deplorably started the whole notion that the Sandy Hook massacre was all a hoax. And he stuck to that appalling narrative, made the parents who'd already been through unimaginable hell, dragged them back over the coals of hell when they were already in mourning. By suggesting that it was all a hoax, that their children weren't. I mean, and then anyway, there's a documentary out about this, which we should all watch. But what struck me when I was reading about this was that there was a statistic, which is that a quarter of all Americans believe that Sandy Hook was a hoax, and you just think, wow, that is a big country that is a lot of people, and as awful as it is to think that half of that country wants a rapist in charge, the fact that a quarter doesn't believe that tragedy occurred and is willing to own it. Anyway, it's just, anyway, so the world is full of vile and mean people. And, but even though we need to stop people doing vile things, we don't need to worry about what they think. Live for the people that love you and like you and are kind. And that's what I'm trying to do every day, is live for the people around us that are kind. And that's us, who are here now with us, having fun. So I'm in Toronto for another couple of days, and I'm back. When am I back? I want to fly back tomorrow. Do I fly back tomorrow? Yes, because I have a gig tomorrow night in Moncton for the City of Moncton Hospital. Love performing for healthcare workers. Of course, it's World Nurses Week coming up. Yesterday on the social, we had lots of nurses in and broadcast students. So if any of you are listening, love you nurses, worship you, respect you, come from a family of nurses and physiotherapists, healthcare workers are my heroes. So yes, performing for the Moncton Hospital. And then next week, I am off to my very, very first ever NHL game to see Montreal Canadiens play the Toronto Maple Leafs with my father-in-law Barry and my son Hunter, which I'm very excited about. Taking the bus from Fredericton with a load of other fans. I love the fact that the bus that we're all going on to this monumental game is populated by half Canadiens fans and half Maple Leafs fans. Can you imagine in England putting two rival teams on one bus? I mean, not only would there be nothing left of the bus by the end of it, everyone would have torn strips off each other. So but yet meanwhile, on the ice, extremely violent sport. Off the ice, not a deal. It's a funny dichotomy, that, isn't it? That hockey fans, even though, they might get drunk and a bit rowdy or whatever else, but they might get a bit shouty. But there's no hooliganism. There's no fighting. But on the ice, there is a hell of a lot of beating people over the head with hockey sticks, which would get you, if you punch someone on a soccer pitch. Have I already talked about this on this podcast? I talk about this a lot. Or I've been workshopping a routine about this that hasn't quite worked yet. But I just find it funny that Canadians are the most pacifistic, peaceful people. But on ice, they turn into absolute hooligans, and yet soccer players generally behave quite well on the pitch. And if anything, they're the opposite, in which they're constantly falling down, pretending they're hurt when they're not really. Meanwhile, soccer fans behave. They're probably the Euro tournament is coming up, isn't it? This summer. And so there'll be a new Panini sticker album. I don't know if there's any Panini sticker collectors out there. I guess Panini stickers were kind of, you would have Topps trading cards here in Canada. In England, it was Panini stickers. My sons and I still do all the Panini sticker albums. We're doing the Premier League soccer one right now, although it's actually called football, heads up. So I think that's it. That's it for the podcast. I hope you've all been happy. So questions. Yes, I've been emailed some questions. Jane from Harvey Hall. Harvey Hall is an absolutely gorgeous venue, one of the oldest performing arts buildings in all of Atlantic Canada, recently rescued by some amazing volunteers. In Harvey, I should point out, this is Harvey in Albert County, not the other Harvey that's an hour away near Fredericton. That's right, only in Atlantic Canada would you have two places with identical names so close to each other. It makes absolutely no sense. Why is there a Sackville in Nova Scotia and a Sackville an hour away in New Brunswick? Makes zero sense. It's designed to confuse us. Don't even get me started on the St. John's thing. There are two Harveys. I did a show at Harvey Hall last year. Half the audience were looking for Harvey Hall in Harvey near Fredericton. Anyway, beautiful venue, Harvey Hall. Look it up. A true story of community spirit. People coming together to save this gorgeous hall. Jane at Harvey Hall, who is the brains behind it, along with an incredible army of volunteers. She booked me for a show there last year. I will be back there later this year. She asked me the question, when you were 7, what did you want to be as a grown-up? And I can honestly say, age 7, I not that I have incredible memories of that time, but I mean, I was into comedy. I was cutting out pictures of VHS videos. That squeaking was the chair sit at this desk at the Sutton Place and not a fart. We don't have a budget to remove squeaks and things because this pretty much goes up as live. All that squeaking, see, it's the chair. It's not a fart. Sorry, I don't even know I brought attention to it. Rambling. I didn't really know what any of these things were, but I knew that I admired comedians, and I know that I wanted to create things with paper. And so it is. I never, ever stop appreciating that. Basically, what I do now is what I wanted to do when I was 7. To your question, Jane, as I was cutting out from like Blockbuster Video or Ritz Video as it was then, cutting out little video boxes and sticking them on pages and writing film reviews. Essentially what I do now with magazines, watching comedians make funny things and putting them out there into the world. That's what I do now. I mean, these last few days, and it's funny, when I come to Toronto, the amount of times people say to me when I'm here, like, oh, so when are you going to move here? Or are you tempted to move here? And of course, I mean, there's no question that I love coming here to do these live TV appearances. It's thrilling. It's exciting. It's fulfilling. You're up there making an audience laugh while also knowing that is being broadcast live all over the country to millions of people. I mean, that's a buzz, and it's creatively so stimulating. But so is obviously live stand-up night after night. But I will never leave Atlantic Canada and move here. There's I've got things that I'm working on that will involve working in Toronto more. But my home will always be New Brunswick, and I love it there. Curtis Phillips, a wonderful man. Curtis, I hope you're well, my friend. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for these very kind questions. You asked about my comedic professional inspirations. And to Jane's point, I mean, when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, I was watching, things like Not the 9 O'Clock News, Blackadder, The Young Ones, a bit of Fry and Laurie, all of these, Monty Python, obviously. Those were my Rick Mayall was a huge comedy hero of mine. My favorite comedian growing up, and probably still is Frank Skinner. If you don't know Frank Skinner, look up his stand-up. He is everything that I love about watching Frank Skinner do stand-up. You feel like he's just talking to you and you're in a pub, no matter how massive the venue is. And that's what I've always aspired to as a comedian, is I've tried to create the intimacy in a gig that Frank creates. Every time I've seen him live, and I would watch him age 7, 8, 9, 10 over and over and over and over again and study it all. Plug a different local business or event each week. That's an excellent idea, Curtis. Thank you. Well, Broken Pieces, I guess, would be one. And I would also recommend everyone watch on Prime, Roadhouse. Patrick Swayze's Roadhouse was remade. Rest in peace, Patrick Swayze, and God bless Patrick Swayze. A huge fan of the 1989 classic. Like most people, I thought, how dare they try and remake it with Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor. Not a popular opinion. I have to say, I'm a fan of Conor McGregor. I like his swagger. I find it funny when people complain that the world's arguably greatest or most successful UFC fighter is a bit arrogant. Well, yeah, what do you want from your UFC stars? It's like Seinfeld said, comedians pretend they don't have an ego, but really you can't do the job if you don't have a bit of an ego, because you're standing on a stage saying, hey, I'm the funniest person in this room. So anyway, I loved the new Roadhouse movie. Didn't think I would. It was, they knew what they were doing. It's absolutely ludicrous. It's hilarious. Conor McGregor might not be able to act, but oh my word, he eats up the screen. Immediately afterwards, out of respect for the Swayze, who I love, one of my greatest actually ever movie moments was watching Ghost with my mum in the cinema and weeping buckets. And we went home and listened to the Righteous Brothers on vinyl, and I still listen to the Righteous Brothers on vinyl all the time. Some of you may not know this, but the 1989 Roadhouse featured very prominently in it a St. Johnner, Tom Stephen. who I spoke to, interestingly, a few months before his tragic passing in 2018, I believe it was. Yes, 2018. Actually, I was here in Toronto when we chatted. He was the drummer and for many years the manager of the Jeff Healey Band, who from their formation in the early 80s right up until Tom's passing in 2018. The band are obviously very prominent in Roadhouse as Double Deuce. In the Double Deuce in the club there. Patrick Swayze exchanges dialogue with Tom Stephen, and he was born and very proudly from St. John, if anyone didn't know that. So, but anyway, the thing I was recommending wasn't that. Roadhouse is number one. It was Davey and Jonesie's Locker, which is on Hulu in the States, Amazon Prime in Canada. A beautiful and hilarious and exciting quirky teen. It's time travel, it's sci-fi. Basically, these two teens, they travel the multiverse via their school locker. It is Canadian, filmed in Toronto, but not kind of, I don't believe, it could be corrected, but when I was watching it, I didn't get the feeling that it was being labeled as Canadian. It's being filmed in Canada, but very much universal, essentially appealing to an American market. Interestingly, it is produced by a St. Johner also. See, there's always a theme to these things. The amazing Mark Bishop, who I believe I've mentioned on this podcast before. Mark Bishop, of course, created the multi-award-winning film Mr. Dress-Up. He's the brains behind Race Against the Tide, Blown Away on Netflix, which the season 4 of that just started. And Mark Bishop, this brand new, his company, Blue Ant Media, they are behind Davey and Jonesie's Locker. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. Just thought it was blistering entertainment for the whole family, and Mark and his team and his business partner Matt, who I had the immense pleasure of meeting this week. Matthew Hornberg, again another titan of global television entertainment. Just amazing people, with always with an eye on the East Coast, while they create award-winning and globally watched, admired, worshipped, critically acclaimed films and TV shows. Well, that's it. I should let you all go. It's been 40 minutes. Thanks for listening, if you're still here. And thanks again to all the new listeners who discovered this through the social. If you are listening to this still, tune in to CTV on Monday. I will be on a show on that day, and I think I was told not to mention it yet, but just watch CTV all day, all day on Monday, and well, if you're still here now, I think I will tell you it's one of my favourite shows actually, along with The Social, which I watch every day as someone who works from home. The Good Stuff with Mary Berg. I'm on that on Monday. And she is every bit as joyful and lovely as she seems on TV. So I hope you will check that out. And again, like I say, it's a weird thing. Like it's a funny thing that everyone I've met in Canadian TV is as nice or even nicer in real life as, you know, I mean, Melissa, Andrea, Cynthia, Jessica, and indeed Elaine when she was on The Social, like just the kindest, nicest, most welcoming people. I'm this nobody turning up on their show, and they just treat me like one of the family, help me do well. And Mary Bo was the same, and as I say, it's the same behind the scenes. It's the same talking to people like Matt and Mark at Blue Ant Media. Just it's a phenomenal thing, and not to say that everyone in the American or British television industry is a ginormous asshole. I'm doing a Rebel Wilson now. I'm not saying that everyone is a Sascha Baron Cohen, but I am saying that people in Canadian television and film are just the kindest people in the world. If you're listening to this for the weekend, I just remembered one final thing I will share, which is that Joan Collins, 90-year-old Joan Collins, revealed her hangover cure. And you think, wow, 90 years in the biz. She's 90 years, been to a lot of parties, partied with the greats, probably partied with Sinatra, Rod Stewart, can't think of any other names right now. She knows she'll have a good hangover cure. Not that great, actually. Her Dame Joan told the Sun and newspaper that her secret to a no hangover is tons and tons of water and stay in bed as long as possible. Isn't that just describing a hangover? Yeah? That's what you do when you have a hangover. Also, isn't the reason we need to get rid of hangovers is because we have to get out of bloody bed? I guess when you're a dame, I guess what the Dame Joan Collins, God bless her, Dame Joan Collins is saying is, become a dame, so you don't need to get out of bed. So good advice. Tons and tons of water and stay in bed as long as possible. Yeah, I mean, yeah, some of us have to work, do podcasts. Anyway, I'll be back in New Brunswick tomorrow. Thank you, Toronto, for a great time. Thank you to everyone here at the Sutton Place Hotel. Shout out to Reese and John at Podstarter. Email me at comedy@jamesmanager.com if you have any questions for sponsorship opportunities on the show, plugs, anything you'd like us to see, do, visit, whatever. That's it. I've been James Mullinger. This has been Mullinger's Weekly Ramble, and you have been very, very kind indeed to stick with me to the bitter end. Have a wonderful day, night, week, month. See you next week. Lots of love. Bye.
Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.